Welcome back to Surviving Ish. This is the show where we dive into some messy, complicated, sometimes surprisingly beautiful ways to make it through the day. And I'm real excited about the guest we have today. It's our first time meeting, but I've been checking out websites and products and podcasts and all kinds of things that Jermaine E is involved in. How are you? What's going on?
Great, great. I know we're recording at the end of the week here, but I feel like a Monday today. I'm so behind on things and I want to keep catching up on it.
Yeah, I worked a few hours today, but I'm going into the office tomorrow on Saturday to do some things. And so, yeah, it feels like I'm starting right back over. I had the conversation earlier, was like, I'm so over Mondays. And I feel like today is yet another Monday. It's been like a week of Mondays for me.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a good thing. It's like I love my Mondays mostly because I feel like I can now really just pour all my energy into work.
Yeah.
It for me it feels like a Monday only because I spent all day yesterday at a conference and I feel like it was like just talking and it was by the beach in Santa Monica. So
Ah.
yeah, so it's my first day back in the office. That's why it feels like a Monday right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. I actually had a conversation on here one day with how, especially when I was in like corporate America, like Mondays were always fun for me. I got off the weekend. I was excited. I'm a social person. So I liked like going into work and seeing my work buddies and having coffee with them. Tuesdays sucked. I hated Tuesdays. But when I say that this feels like a Tuesday, it doesn't seem to have that same impact on people for them to relate and be like, yeah, I hate Tuesdays, so I have to go with the Mondays. But in my head, I mean Tuesdays.
I've actually been playing around with this concept, since you've seen some of my podcasts and things I put out. I've been playing around with this concept of like, what does a perfect Tuesday look like? Because it's like challenging myself to think, what time does my energy level go down? For example, I know one thing about me, which is around this time. So it's 3 p.m. Pacific in LA right now. And normally my work energy goes down. So if I'm sitting in my office working on a ad optimization, looking at meta ads and trying to figure out the data, that's the worst kind of work I can do. But if I'm talking to someone because I'm an extrovert,
Yeah.
it kind of energizes me, right? So, I'm trying to think like, oh, how can I actually plan every day to be like the best Tuesday ever? Like make sure
Right.
energy management is right, you rest well, you focus on things you want to do, people you want to talk to.
Yeah. When you learn that, share your secret. I will pay for it. Create a course or something. But I'm a very social person, so I love talking. I love podcasting. Like this was meant for me. However, I never knew this about me to the extreme that it is, but I am a pacer. I love to pace back and forth. And if I'm on the phone, I have to walk up and down my driveway. It's how I get my steps in. And people can tell, like if they call me, they're like, you're sitting down, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, I can tell because you're not very active. You're not really into the conversation. And we're finally like getting into like summer versus winter here in the South, which I hate. I hate summer, but I hate the heat. But I can actually get back outside now and pace back and forth. I've just got to find a way to do it while podcasting where I don't look ridiculous and run out of breath on camera.
Podcasting is definitely harder. I think one of the things that I realized the last say a year or so is I don't like giving up my 8 a.m.s because 8 a.m.s are like putting out fires, jumping into the email. So I started to realize this because I had a few 8 a.m. meetings like last year and I realized I'm so antsy. I'm like not present. I'm not really like giving this person or whoever that meeting is like my full attention. And I think that self-awareness kind of comes from practice optimization a little bit. Maybe that's not the right word, but just like kind of thinking to yourself like, ooh, that meeting at 8 a.m. that was not good. Maybe we should not do that. And so, so I guess that's what I meant by like having a really good Tuesday,
Right.
which means like I'm planning my day around like the right energy flow. And I talk to a loved one at the end of the day, pacing, hopefully, like walking around. I do realize there's one thing you can do while pacing, which is practicing for podcast stuff. I love prepping for podcasts while walking in a treadmill going uphill.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hack is like if you get your heart rate to like zone 1 cardio, you're kind of like in a brisk walk basically, and your elevated heart rate. So you're kind of like in a performance. So
Yeah.
that's something I learned recently.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? Like, I actually just recently learned this. It's probably common knowledge. I just didn't know it. But I'm a Swiftie. I like Taylor Swift. I was watching one of her documentaries with my friend's daughter who's crazy about Taylor Swift. And they were talking about how, like, when she was getting ready for this tour, she would have to sing while running on a treadmill because that would help her, like, learning how to breathe and where she could still carry the tunes. And I never thought about that. I was like, holy, which I'm not a singer, I'm never on stage, so I guess I really have no reason to do that. But I thought that was really interesting. So when you said that, it reminded me of that.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why the pros do that.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I am excited to hear, before we get into the big topics, I want to hear about your ish. And I want to preface with this. I always send out a little email, giving an outline of what the show is, and people can email in, like, kind of what they're thinking about what their ish may be. Sometimes it changes, sometimes they stick with the ones that's in the email. But I loved what you said. You said that it made you have to do, in the middle of the day, you had to do some self evaluating, but that you loved it. And I never really thought of it that way, but I was like, yeah, like when I start to do, like, before I get on a podcast, I always like to have an idea of what kind of ish I want to talk about, and if I need to do any research with it or whatever, or think about one of my funny stories, and it never fails. I have to dive deep into myself a little bit and think, why am I pissed off about the person in the elevator, and so I really appreciated that comment.
Yeah. Did I talk about the to-do list? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you remember? I have them in front of me in case you
No,
don't
no, I
remember.
got, yeah. I mean, I still do this. I think I just did
Yeah.
this today. So,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, so I'm in my mid 30s now. In my 20s, I think maybe it's living in LA, maybe it's being surrounded by, folks who are very ambitious and high performance. I think my entire 20s, I just measured myself with how much production can I have? How much productivity can I have? To the point where it's almost like self-destruction, right? I wake up in the morning and before the day even start, I feel like I'm behind. Yeah, I feel like I'm behind by 2 weeks before the day even started. So I got into this habit, and I think for all the right reasons, I got into a habit of like, let's make a very clear to-do list, and it has to have things that are important but urgent, urgent and important, important not urgent. So it's like four categories, right?
Right.
Because we tend to do things that are urgent but not important,
Yeah.
right? And so I wanted to make sure I have this system, and I realized it's so silly, but I still do that. I already did that this morning, and I wrote it down just so I can cross it off. Like, I think that's just that feeling, that dopamine I think I want to get.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that because I am the kind of person that especially like when I get in the office, I make my coffee and I'm sitting at my desk, getting ready to start my day, I make myself a to-do list. But I really appreciated something that you said. You said that sometimes you will put things on there that you've already done just to be able to mark it off to show that productivity. And I do that too because I cannot finish my day until there's a check mark on that number of thing, and sometimes it's not meant to finish at all, but I want some kind of like red note beside it showing where I've had my hands in that pot. But what sparks me and it energizes me and motivates me is when I start seeing like the green checks. I always use green because green means money, so the good is green, right? And so sometimes will put something on there that I've already done that day that it was just done before I did the list. And it does. It helps change my mindset on like, great, now I've got this whole thing where I'm starting at bullet point number one, and that can be intimidating, and you just want to shove it in your desk drawer. But when you already have a green check mark on there, you're ready to go.
Yeah. And momentum's a real thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's so many like self-help gurus or even personal trainers out there that say, when you wake up in the morning, put your running shoes right by your bed or something like that,
Yeah.
just to like keep that momentum. I think naturally we're just all really bad at doing the thing that we know we should do.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many things. There's probably like 10 things in my mind right now that I know I should have done, yes, like 5 days ago, and that it's really, really important. I think that's my entire business right now, right? Like I'm literally trying to get people to do something that everyone says I know it's important, but I just don't want to do it for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
It's so easy to procrastinate on things. And one of the things, which I don't want to get too deep into it now because I know it's going to be one of the heavy like topics that we spend some time on, is your business. So I'm just going to put a pin in what I was going to say because I'll remember because I think it's going to open up for conversation. But I will say, and to the listener for a little bit of a teaser, I think you might get mad at me, Jermaine. I think you're going to have a talking to with me with your business and what I have not done.
I have an idea.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll put a pin in that. But okay. And there was another one that you had so your trip, you took a 5-day road trip. trip.
Oh yes. You know
Yeah.
what's funny? I was just editing this video because
Oh
I
yeah.
filmed the entire thing. So
Oh wow.
it's so funny. Yeah. So this is a common theme. So the context is like my girlfriend, she's from Ukraine. She's like born and raised Ukrainian. And we met at a conference in Latvia many years ago, 4 years ago, when the Ukrainian war started. And she always asked me like, why do you work so much for one, but why do you like beat yourself up over taking a break, basically? Because I think there's a Europeans, they're much better at like enjoying life and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think what I wrote to you is like this trip that I went on. So we went to Phoenix, Arizona. She had some work there, and then we had to go to a trade show in Vegas. And we saw that, we could have just flown, but maybe let's road trip. Let's go to Grand Canyon. And I told myself, I'm gonna take 4 days or 5 days off and just be present, just be with her and look at this beautiful Grand Canyon. Day one, I'm fine. Day two, I'm fine. Day three, I woke up and I'm like, I need to reply my emails. There's like something's going on. And I just catch myself constantly in this like struggle with myself of like, I need to be present, but I need to get stuff done. I need to be present, I need to get stuff done. And what ends up always happening is I get really irritable. And then I sit down with myself and I feel bad that I kind of ruined a few hours of the trip
Yeah.
when it's totally unnecessary. It's just the voices in my head of this habit that I have. And I think a lot of people can relate to this.
Oh yeah, when I was reading that today, so a little something about me is Reba McEntire. My listeners know this because I don't think there's ever been an episode where I've not mentioned her name at least once. But Reba McEntire, the country singer, is my favorite person in the world. And today she had a brand new single come out, and it's been several years, and it's one of Reba's like powerhouse ballads that's just kicking you in the heart. You're crying with her, but you can't turn it off. Like the sadder the song, the happier I am. I was with a person for 7 years, and we've been apart. We separated, about a year and a half ago, and so I've been listening to that song all day, and I know it by heart now. But then when I was getting ready for, preparing and trying to get into the mindset with this episode with you today, and I reread your email where we were conversing, and you had told me this story, it reminded me of a time where my partner and I we took a lovely trip. Neither one of us had ever been to Boston, so we decided, to go to Boston, spend a week. And there was one day I was just so pissed off at everything for no reason. And we were, of course, we were walking. We stayed right downtown so we could just walk everywhere, and good restaurants, coffee shops, all that stuff. And it started to rain, and it really pissed me off. And so I was like, great, I have no umbrella. I'm gonna have to re-shower before dinner. And I was just an ass about it. And when we broke up a few months after that, he told me, he said, all I kept thinking is how I wanted you to kiss me in the rain. I wanted that to be a moment for us. And I was like, I'm such an ass. But I've learned that lesson. I'm not perfect by any means, but I know what you mean. I'm learning that lesson, unfortunately the hard way.
I do think we get better at it.
Yeah.
I do think with experience, we're able to recognize this pattern of behavior that's kind of brewing in our heart, this irritable, this annoyance that's coming up, and just remind ourselves. I am like much better at it right now than I was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes us human. It's in some beautiful way, it's kind of like I'm with this person and she loves me for all of this, right? Despite all of this, and
Yeah.
not because of, but despite all of this.
Right.
And I think that there's a similar version of me to her too. And it is a beautiful thing. I think that's what they meant by like growing together, where you learn about each other's little stuff that
Yeah.
we put up with. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely, because I think there are those things that are not deal breakers, but that person's going to grow and change along the way, and maybe you're going to get to be a good part of that, for them, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's one of the challenges with society as a whole today is that we're so used to having exactly what we want in our fingertips that when something goes difficult, we're just like, next. Let's just like, dating sucks everywhere right now. Not that I'm dating, but dating sucks everywhere because everyone's like, well, if this is not a great fit, like a 95% match, then I'm like, I'll just move on to the next one. There's somebody else out there.
Yeah.
I think we kind of lost the art of knowing how to not tolerate, but like work through something that's difficult. And I'll speak for myself. Like that's something I'm trying to do all the time. I'm always improving on this.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be a completed job, because we're always going to be faced with something. I will say, be glad that you're not out in the dating world. I've been single for a year and a half. Several months ago, probably about 6 months ago. I thought, you know what? I kind of have the itch. I want to put myself out there. Met a real cute guy. He was a professor with a doctorate. He had money in the bank. It was meaning he could take care of himself. I didn't have to. He wasn't no scrub kind of thing. Funny. We had a great time together. He was living a double life, and everything that I knew about him, job, money in the bank, everything was a lie. And I said, you know what? I'm not ready for this. So I'm gonna go back into my little hermit crab, and here I am.
Yeah. Well, don't give up, It's
No, I
I
won't
know
give
it's
up.
cliche, but yeah, I hate to say that, but it's the same for me, I was all the way across the world and I wasn't expecting to meet someone.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for my relationship, but I would say dating someone who's across the world at war, countries at war, not the easiest. There's a lot that comes with it.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
I can't
it's
imagine.
beautiful on the other end, right?
Yeah.
The bond that you have, and she's now watched a little bit of spoiler. She's watched me lose my mom. Like 7 months ago, when my mom passed away, she sat by my mom in the hospital, and going through these difficult things in life teaches you a lot about. Actually, teaches you a lot about what matters to you, and equally what doesn't matter to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about your mom. And I want to say, I do want to ask you a question and answer it however you want. We don't have to stay on this topic, but I know that this is a crazy time for all the world right now. But your girlfriend is here and she's safe. Is her family safe? Is everything okay? Is that something you can answer or want to drop
Yeah.
scoot past?
No, no. So at the time of this recording, she is back in Kyiv
Oh my.
because of Easter. She's been there for a few weeks and she decided to go back. She's so close to her family. It's one of the things that I love about her, which is she's so, so close to her family and she understands this family dynamic. In fact, she taught me more about loving myself than anything could have. Because I remember that she asked me in early on when we started dating, it's like, why do I feel like I need to earn my love, even with family? Like, why do I feel like I have to be somebody to be deserving to be loved? And she said, in my family, we're loved just because. I think that's such a beautiful thing that maybe as Americans, maybe because we're so individualistic that we've kind of lost a lot of that. So she's home. All that to answer you that she's home in Ukraine right now. Missiles were flying. I lost a lot of sleep because I get notifications when there's intercontinental ballistic missiles flying over. And yeah, as of this recording 2 nights ago, there's like lots of videos of a few streets getting demolished by shelling by Russia. So yeah, it's still happening. And because so much is going on in the world that we get so distracted, and a lot of people are suffering.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's very scary. I will keep her and her family, in my thoughts and send all the love and well wishes. And I hope that her travels are easy and safe for her. I know it's scary, but man, we have to do it. And there's going to be a light, right? Like this is all going to break one day somehow. And I think that I have come across people that are really showing kindness and love that I wouldn't necessarily expect. So I hope she is as well.
It is a difficult topic, and it's also difficult for us not to venture into politics at this juncture
Yeah, yeah,
because
and I am trying to stay away from that because I don't want to ever make
no, no.
anyone feel uncomfortable. But it's almost like not about politics anymore. It's about morals and values now.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that we're so different everywhere.
Yeah,
What we surround ourselves with and who we surround ourselves with really shapes the way we look at the world. And
yeah,
then we add a layer of like media that is so driven with retention. Sometimes I have such close friends who have completely different political beliefs as well as reality than I do. And
right,
it's kind of crazy to imagine that we see the same thing, but we look at it so differently.
right.
But I think the one thing I tell myself is humanity's been through all these before. This is relatively speaking still one of the most peaceful times in the world, the history of the world, if you go back however thousand many years we want to. And so it's not going to be the last war. And we'll survive through this. Maybe a little too stoic there.
No, but I mean, I think I hate toxic positivity, but I don't consider that toxic positivity. I think those are things that we do need to spit out into the universe and we do need to remind each other of. So thank you for having that moment with me and sharing your girlfriend with us. That's really cool. And I really do hope that she has safe travels and that her family stays safe. So with that being said, because you'll get me started on topics that have nothing to do with what we're here to talk about, we'll be here forever. So tell us about your business.
So I have an app that helps people make their will. But the way I like to describe my company is that we are a storytelling company that happens to do estate planning, right? So what happened was about a year ago, my mom and I had this conversation about retirement. And what I realized in short is that she had this anxiety around not knowing how her savings translated to the rest of her life. So me being the techie son that I am and the curious son, I created like a little chatbot for her. So she used this chatbot for a few months. It asked her questions about her life and what she has and her hobbies and things like that. But I realized that if I had all this information about like who you love, what you own, and what do you value in the world, that I can organize this information into a legal document for you. So that's where the concept of the app Airlight is born. What ended up happening though is like a few months after my mom passed, and I realized, I'm so glad that I was building this app because through the process of building this app, I had these conversations with her and I got to ask her about the things that were important to her instead of just like the day to day, we go through the motions and go to brunch and pick up groceries and whatever. Like those are
Right.
all important life things, but we don't really consciously slow down and ask each other the important things. So I thought, you know what? All the people that look like my mom who avoided estate planning because they thought it was too expensive or too complicated or they weren't rich enough to have estate plans, all the people who just weren't catered to, this legal document, we can do that in through a conversation with an app, and that's what we are. That's what we built.
That's amazing. And I am ready for you to use me as an example and to lecture me and fuss at me, delete me off Facebook, whatever you need to do, because I am X amount of years old. I never say much. I'm just kidding. No, I will actually be 45 this year. When my hate crime happened, I was 34, and the intent was to murder me. was single. I lived by myself, and no one would have had, like, at that point, you had to use, like, I don't think it was face recognition yet. I think it was just fingerprint or password on your phone. No one would have had any access or know even where to begin on where my bank was, what kind of password I would have, if I had insurance, if I had already paid for my funeral. And I still to this day don't have a will. And I think it's one of those things where I went through such a traumatic event and was so close to death that one of the things that I need to learn from it is the fact that I need to have things lined up and ready and accessible. But I feel like when I do it, I'm wishing it into existence. And so I immediately think, okay, well, we'll put this off tomorrow. We'll put this off tomorrow. It's easy to procrastinate on it, but there's not always tomorrow. The day before someone broke in my house and raped and murdered me, I thought I had forever. Yeah, well, he didn't murder me, but attempted to. I thought I had forever. I can change that quick. But the fact that I still haven't done it, and then you pop up, I guess your PR person emailed me and I was reading about, was like, here's the sign.
Let's diagnose that a little bit. If you had to just guess, what are the top five reasons? So putting it off, I guess, are you afraid of talking about death?
I'm not necessarily afraid of death. I'm afraid of how I'm going to die.
What is it about? Is it a pain thing? It's like you don't want to feel pain.
I'm afraid of pain. I remember what my body felt like with being a breath away, and the recovery from it physically and mentally. I think that I'm afraid of something happening that's traumatic that I survive again because I don't know if my body can handle that pain or if I even want to handle that pain. And that scares me a little bit. And I'm terrified of cancer. Cancer doesn't run in my family. I get my regular testings and checkups. There's no thoughts or signs of anything, but every day I think I have cancer. Like it's like, and I don't mean to be a hypochondriac with it. I don't really get in my head with it that much, but it prevents me from doing the things that are important that could be become a burden on my loved ones, on my family. If something did happen to me right now, they wouldn't be able to actually just mourn me. They would have to scrape and figure out where I put passwords, where if I have a lockbox somewhere, like what about my rental property and the people renting from me, like, and not be able to just to celebrate my life as a family. And so I feel like not doing it is selfish, and that is sparking me to do it. I'm just not fully there yet, but I think this conversation with you might do that job.
Yeah, so to be honest, I think you should definitely look into getting a trust. You have rental properties, which is something my app doesn't do, by the way. So it's kind of funny. I'm always out there talking to people and I'm like, you should do something and we can't do it for you, but you should definitely get a lawyer
Right.
to do it because it honestly it is better for you. Where we come from with the app is we're just trying to get someone who's never thought about it. You clearly thought about this, right? You've kind of considered some things. We just want to help people like start the first conversation. With you, I think what resonated with me and what you said was like, I don't want to feel that pain. You know, what if I survive that pain again? And I don't want to, let's not go down that memory lane too far, but having a healthcare directive or advanced directive essentially gives instructions to the hospital or to the healthcare providers to say, if I were to go through X amount of pain, just let me go.
Yeah.
Versus, for example, for my mom, we knew very clearly she was in a coma for 8 days before she passed. And like when my siblings, the four of us, and my dad was standing next to her, we knew like if she were to kept alive on a machine, she would not want to be kept alive.
Yeah.
And it was so clear to us, and she had a legal document that said that. But the good thing is like she communicated that to us, whereas we didn't have to fight over it because there's been many situations where like either parents or husband, wives, or someone or kids fight over someone who's in a coma of
Yeah.
what kind of treatment they should go through. And they all come from a pure place of love, right? They want them to keep going, but they're not sure what that person would have wanted because they can't speak for themselves. And
Right.
so I think like the things that, death aside, like just while we're here, what kind of decision can be made on our body, that instruction is, I think, very motivating for a lot of people. I hate pain. I can't deal with pain. So just, if it's going to be really painful for more than 24 hours, just let me go. I've lived a good life. So
Right, right, right. Yeah. Well, and what I want to remember too is something that I guess I really haven't thought about too deeply until this conversation. But when you have the DNR, do not resuscitate, this would be a way for me to. What a lot of victims slash survivors say is they feel like they've lost control. This would be a way for me to have control, right? Like I'm still going to have a say so whether I'm unconscious or not. So I have that control and the pressure it would take off of my family. My family did not make this decision. I made it for them and they're choosing to respect it, as well as the legal form, the doctors and all that are respecting it. And because I do know of families that one person says, no, let's wait one more day. What if they come to? Well, they're going to be a vegetable. They're never going to walk. They don't want to live that kind of life. And then the family ends up breaking up over it because you're trying
or
to make
going or
these
going rogue.
conversations. Yeah. And you're trying to make these decisions in a very emotional state, which is going to intensify everything. And most of the time, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, it's really sad now that I guess I'm in this business in this industry.
Yeah.
I was meeting with a owner of a hospice yesterday here in LA, and gosh, the stories are just it's just sad. It can be avoided, and a lot of times everybody's acting to the best that they can
Sure.
out of love. But
Yeah.
it's so overwhelming. Emotionally, it's so overwhelming that, people just don't, yeah, there's no playbook for this. And so, yeah, that's mostly what I talk to younger people about. It's like, hey, I know maybe you don't think you're going to die, which probably fair. You're probably like 25 years old and feel like you're invisible. But it is good to have this clarity because when you think about these things, it's kind of like writing your own eulogy. So I'm a really strange person. I wrote my eulogy 3 times now. I'm 34. And my first eulogy when I was 22, 23, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be respected and all these things. And I wanted X amount of people to come to my funeral because I love admiration, right?
Right.
And it's all of that. And then I realized when I was 28, I wrote it again. This is during COVID. So many things got stripped away, right? The things that matter kind of shifted. And then I did that again a few years ago. It essentially boiled down to like a few things. I wanted my siblings to remember me as a brother who was present, who was helpful to them. I wanted my friends to feel like, even if I'm not with them all the time, that when I was there, I was there,
Yeah.
right? That I was caring. But beyond that, that's not too much more that I can ask for, right? So I think if we start having these conversations, we end up finding ourselves in a place that feels very grounded. And what I always tell people is like, how could you possibly know what is enough in your lifetime if you don't know where you are today?
Yeah.
Right. So that would be the financial piece.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't ever thought about writing my own eulogy, but I almost wonder if that's something that I kind of want to task myself to. I think that would be very interesting. And I like how you've done it several times. Every few years you'll do it just to see what has changed, what has progressed. Have I went from the ego side of me to the more like parts of me that I like now? Like how have I progressed? Or maybe went the other direction and and need to work on. Damn,
Yeah, if you think about a
you're giving me
podcast,
homework.
yeah, if you think about podcasts, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're sharing stories. It's energizing for you. But someone's listening to this and they connect with a story that we're talking about, and it changes the way that they think about one topic, right? That's all we're going for. We're trying to make a small little change in someone's life, whether it's like the way they think about it or the way they show up as a friend to somebody in their relationship. I think like a lot of this inner work, looking inwards, is a sign of maturity. But the more you change actually in your eulogy, it just shows that you're growing.
Right.
It really doesn't matter what direction it grows. I know for sure in my 20s, I wanted nothing more to be on 30 and the 30 list, right? And then as I get older, I realize, okay, it's all paid to play, it's all PR. But all that aside, I finally got to a place where I had to like confront myself and say, why did it matter so much? And the truth is, as a immigrant child who was bullied in the teenage years, I thought that being successful would solve all my problems.
Yeah.
Right. And so everything that I had in my 20s was anchored to that. As
Yeah.
long as I'm successful, I'll be loved, I'll be accepted. Right. But yeah, as I got older, I just realized none of it mattered.
Yeah.
I already have all the love that I need. I actually don't really need new friends, even though I love people.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I've noticed too that like as I get older, the friends are trickling away a little bit. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's just because of life, but we could call each other and pick right up. But my friend group is getting a lot smaller, but we're very strong, with us as a group, as friends. So there's a different kind of, I guess, lesson and love and respect for that because, I used to hear people when I was younger and, talking to people my age or older, and they're like, yeah, the older you get, the fewer friends you have. I mean, it becomes a quality over quantity. And that was terrifying to me. I was like, I don't know what I would do without 5,000 friends, and I maybe have two right now, and I'm totally fine with that, So it's interesting to see how things change. So I really want to check out your app. And so I know that you said that like I can't remember exactly how you said it, but something about like it targets maybe like a younger person or someone that hasn't done a lot of thinking about it. I feel like I have done a lot of thinking about it, but it would be the death, not necessarily the stuff that we talked about today with finances, estate. And so that is something that I haven't thought about.
Yeah, so I think there's so many sides to this planning. There's the let's get a document to essentially say what you want to happen. And then once you get that done, there's actually layers of like strategies, tax strategies, inheritance and things, that you goes into trust and estate lawyers are probably better for that. Our target audience generally is anyone who wants to just like start this conversation. And the reason why, so we don't generate anything with AI. The only AI part of our app actually is the conversation that you have. We needed that because, truth be told, we want to do this for Spanish, we want to do it for Mandarin, we want to do it for Vietnamese, German, all the languages that we have in this country, because a lot of immigrant communities don't get these services, right? They just avoid it altogether. So we want to have that conversation piece so that we can organize all that information. And essentially, we're helping you fill in a form through a conversation. And what makes us different from something like ChatGPT is ChatGPT will just yes and you with everything. It'll be like, oh, that's great. And what about this?
Right.
But we're different because the first question we ask you will be, what state are you in? So that we know the probate code, the laws of your state, and then we'll push back on some things. But one thing we cannot do is we cannot give you legal advice, right? So if you ask us what's better, this or that, we can't really give you legal advice because that's not our role. But what we can do is we define everything for you, and we define everything as in probably all the best practices out there. And then you get to choose whatever you want to do, and we'll explain everything as much as you want to. And crucially, what I realized when we started the app, I thought that estate planning was a socioeconomic game. I thought that people with money tend to have a lawyer. But what I realized is we have users who definitely have money and they're in their late 50s, but they don't want to talk to a human. So they don't want to go to another human, another grown adult, and say, I don't know what an executor is, right?
Oh, so you think like their pride kind of gets in the way?
I
Is,
think
is
it's
is that what you
one,
think it is?
inaction, avoidance, and ego. So, yes. So, with this app, basically, it's like you get to ask it any question. There's no dumb question, and nobody would know if you ask it a dumb question
Right, like that,
or 20.
like there's it's judgment free because I'm sure you all don't have your bots designed to be like, what a stupid question, and and shame them for it. So good job on that.
The funny thing is we started off thinking, oh, we should kind of be like the Disney tone. We should be very positive. But then what I realized is like, you know what? Nobody, no adult actually want to be like too Disney because we want to be real about these topics. We want to be like, let's be pushed back a little bit and make sure that it's done properly. And so we really tune it that it's not yes and everything. We tune it to push back on things. Somebody actually did this, and I asked them because we do this testing. I get someone to sit in front of me and use the app because I want to know the user experience. And someone's like, okay, when I die, everything that I own will be put into a pool and all my friends will go drive a go-kart. And whoever wins that race of go-kart gets everything. And I was like, we have to make a decision as Airlight. Do we allow that? Which we should, because we're not giving you legal advice. We're not telling you it's a stupid idea, right? So then do we push back and say, well, you have to define that all the people driving the go-kart have the same tires, have the same power in the car, and the length and their weight is equal? Do we push back and push the user to define it clearly, or do we just let them do whatever they want? So that's the fine line that we play in all the time, because there's very, very fine line as to what is legal interpretation, advice, and what is just us organizing your thoughts for you.
I don't think that I'm stupid, but having this conversation with you, there's so much that I just don't know. The thought that goes behind like developing something like this, I would never be like, I would never think that, like the whole thing of like, well, are their lawnmowers the same? Do they have the same tires? I'm like, I would never know to think that. Like, I'm glad we have people like you in the world because I can do little. I can do a little, but definitely not that. So, thank you. Thank you for being the
It's
brains of this operation. So, but I do respect what you said about the Disney character kind of thing because there have been a few bots or AIs or systems that I've been a customer of, and it was I cannot stand toxic positivity. I've already kind of mentioned that to you today, and I feel like sometimes there's these bots on there, and it's all just this toxic positivity that is kind of triggering to me to where I'm like, screw it, fuck it, I'm done, and I hang up. So I'm glad. I know that we're getting into a place where there's going to be a lot of more conversations with robots, AIs, what have you. So I'm glad that it's going to be as real as it can be versus the one-on-one person interaction versus, like this machine telling me that even on rainy days the sun is beautiful. Like I don't need to hear that right now. You know what I mean? So I have some respect for that.
We had an ad right now running on Meta, and this ad is the best performing ad. So what I realized was for a very long time we were running these ads that says protect your loved one, have peace of mind. And one day one of my friends sat me down and said, "Hey, have you seen your ad next to all the other companies' ads? If you swap out your logos, you all sound the same." And I was like, "Oh, that's true." So then I realized, okay, what is something that I can say that nobody else can? And the truth is, this came out of unfortunately my mother's death, right? So I ran an ad. We have a few variation that essentially says, I just lost my mom and the paperwork sucked. To make it suck less for the people you love, do this. So I did a variation of these. And there's a few comments in there saying, I'm so sick of these companies preying on our grief, and like I get it. It's hard to please everybody.
Sure.
But the interesting thing is that this is the ad that resonated the most.
Yeah.
Right. So because it's the most human and it's not Disney at all. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, death sucks, make it suck less.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I
I
appreciate
think
that.
that's the game. That's the game. We put ourselves out there. It works for some people. It doesn't work for the others. And to be honest, when you go on the app, it depends on when you sign on. it's a varying degree of how we tune it because we're also testing to see what works better. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like that is so interesting. But you know what I have found for myself is it's like I have a pretty decent following. My show does really well, but it's like the interaction that I get is minimal. I'll post something, I'll get 100 views and one thumbs up, and I'm like, thanks, mom. Like thanks, dad. But then my inbox every day is full. And it's because these are the things that people don't want to talk about out loud on a public platform. And the few things that I do get, if they're negative, I've learned that in a lot of times it's a trauma response. And I just have to brush it off. So when someone says those things to you, like immediately I thought, like, I wonder if that's some kind of trauma response. Now, with that being said, I've really appreciated this conversation. I'm going to share all the links and anything that you all have sent me or want to send me. But before we start heading out, I want to make sure, did we get to talk about all the highlighted points that you wanted to touch on? I know that we had a bit of a longer intro than normal just because conversation happened. It was lovely. So I just want to make sure that we get to cover everything. It doesn't matter if we go over.
Yeah, I'm curious, if there's something I can share that would help, if a good story, I'm happy to share anything. I also don't need to be pushing the app super hard. I think if the story resonates, people will go to it. This
Yeah.
is kind of my philosophy. In fact, I think I just told you to go get an attorney to make a
Yeah.
trust,
Yeah.
right? And I really do think that the rising tides raises all boats in the industry. I'm going to just call it humanity, right? Like we all
Right.
need this.
Yeah.
And I think more conversations out there, the better. The truth is, like, our quote unquote competitor, the biggest one, only has so few customers and they've been doing it for so long. And I just think that we are a storytelling company because of that. It's like, can we tell a compelling enough story to get someone to do something? And my story, fortunately, is just the fact that I feel so grateful that I got to spend this time with my mom talking about the app, the person who's my rock, who's the most certain thing in my life. And because of building this app, I got to hang out with her and talk about some really deep topics that we sometimes just don't get to. And if nothing ever happens to Airlight, I'm already super grateful.
Oh
But
yeah.
I know that I hear it from my users. And one thing that really sucks about our testimonials is we can't really share the face and the story because people don't want to put themselves out there. And so I get to like share and change the name a little bit. So if something resonated, I would really hope that someone would take a step. And it doesn't have to be a legal form today. It can actually be a journal, to sit down and write down what's important to you. What are some things that makes you happy? And try to do more of that.
Yeah.
And then once you get thinking about that, once you journal about things like that, you start thinking about, what do I want to protect?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be things. It's sometimes they're people. They're just people that you care so much about, and you just don't want them to go through going to a probate court, which is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what sticks with me the most is if something happened to me right now, like I don't have children, I don't have a partner. Luckily, I do still have both of my parents and I have one grandparent left, but I have a brother with some nephews, but I wouldn't want them to have to spend time wondering, are they making the right decision? Am I rolling over in my grave, which I want to be cremated, but for the saying of, like I want to relieve that from them. And so I just really appreciate this conversation. I think that's something that I personally needed because I do think it's funny. And one thing that I do respect and appreciate about you, I think there was like three different times you're like, well, maybe my app's not for you, but you know what I mean? And so you're not shoving it down anyone's throat, but I have to talk about it and promote it. But you could have told me right now, well, for $10 a month, David, give me your credit card. I'd probably be like, okay, buddy, and giving it to you and charge me whatever, but just because sometimes I'm not that smart. But I'm just kidding. But no, I really appreciate this conversation. It really has me thinking, and I think the thought that I did not have until today is it's another way of me to have control, which has been a battle of mine since I felt like I lost control from the attempted murder, right? And so every day I think, how can I be in control of this? How can I have my voice and my say so in it? And so I think that has been a bit of my motivation. Now, as we both know, I am no genius, but what could be cool is I would almost like, because sometimes I do need the person that I'm talking to or the AI that I'm talking to, sometimes I need to be very matter of fact. And sometimes I do need things to be a little cushioned, like because I know that I'm emotional or whatever. I would love, and maybe not necessarily your app, but just generally, like I would love to be able to pick that option. Like, do I want to talk to a female about this that's going to be motherly, or do I want to talk to a female that is going to be very headstrong, very legal, chill, very matter of fact, like, bitch, get up and do this kind of thing? Or do I need like a father figure? And let me pick what tone I need because of the topic that I'm dealing with. That's probably a lot
You
of
know,
work.
we actually tested this.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, the first version, I think 4 months ago, we when you come in, the first thing we ask you is how quickly do you want to get this done? So today, tomorrow, or I don't know, right? And I don't know, it's kind of a little bit like wandering. We'll walk you through holding your hand through this wonderland of questions and things like that. And then the today, it's just A, B, answer question, answer question, answer question. So I realize maybe this is a little bit of a stereotypical thing, but a lot of heterosexual men, I'll just qualify that, want a to-do list. Like they want to see something to check off the list, right? And more women than not want to have a conversation. They want to ask clarifying, subjective things. So I think it's so that is the beautiful thing about humans. We're all so different. It's so subjective.
Well, and I think about it too, like when, when my attack happened, one of the things that Tennessee did is I get lifetime of free therapy, right? And but I told him I cannot be locked up in a room, even though I make it sound like I'm being forced into something, but that's what it felt like kind of. And but I was like, I cannot be closed in with a straight white man, because that's who hurt me. And I think everyone straight, white, and has a penis wants me dead. Luckily I got past that. But we found that the therapist, the female therapist, that got me to a lovely place to where I started seeing a male therapist and ended up being a part of a sexual assault group therapy for men. And so seeing that progression was so I that's why I think it's so important for us to be able to say this is the kind of person I need to speak with. And I'm not gonna lie to you, there have been times I've had to call Xfinity, and I can tell by the way someone's answering the phone that I'm gonna have to deal with that I'm not gonna like them, they're not gonna like me. I will hang up and call back until I get a gay man or a black woman. When it comes to Xfinity, those are the two that I like. So
I
that's funny that and interesting that you all have already tested this out. So do you mind if I ask what you found with the testing?
so it depends on what angle you come in, right? If you're a new parent, that's the ad you saw, you come into us, you have very different psychology, right? It's so different. Everybody's so different. And honestly, it's something we're struggling with. I get about one conversion every 100 demo accounts. And there's no possible way for me to know very clearly why these demo accounts, based on demographic, psychographic, are converting better with what kind of voice. There's a lot of matching of data here. So yeah, this is something that we're continuing to iterate on.
I love
And
that.
like even for myself, like if I'm in a good mood, I want to talk to a different kind of person. So
Right.
I had a very long conversation with this woman from Detroit, so Midwest, a black woman who's we just laughed about the fact that my name is Black for like I don't know, at 30 minutes nonstop. We talked about the Jackson 5 because I'm named after
Oh,
Jermaine is a super black name.
right. Well,
It's
yeah, yeah. I was thinking of last name. I was like, did I mess up your last name? Because I was thinking you were saying
no,
your
no,
last
no,
name
you're
was
good.
Black. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and like her reaction to my black name was completely different from somebody else. And like a white person would never come up to me and be like, "Do you have a black name?" Because
Right.
it's kind of weird for them to do that, but actually maybe it's not because it's like a 99% black name.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's like our the way we see the world is so inherited by like our values or where we're from and our family and like all the things that happen to us in our lifetime that it's so hard to predict what works. And so we'll do our best. We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying different ways of getting the message across, the stories across. Yeah.
I'm excited to follow. I see your passion. I hear it in your voice. I see the way you kind of light up when you're talking about it, and so I love and respect that. So I can't wait to follow or continue to follow and learn. So okay, I have one more last question, and then we can start seeing ourselves out. So when you have someone like me who would, when the app first asked me today, tomorrow, or I don't know, I never pick I don't know. I would never pick today, so I would go with the happy medium of tomorrow, but tomorrow would be loosely in my mind, right? And so I'm sure it's kind of like at your own pace. It kind of just saves as you do things. I'm afraid that with this topic that I would easily put on the back burner. So do you have like notifications? Do you have like things that come up and it's like, you've not logged in 2 days. We still need to do this. Get up off that couch and go pace up and down your damn driveway and log in and fill out this shit, David. Like, do you have little things like that?
Yeah, we certainly do. And one thing that, we don't see, so we don't see your messages, it's all encrypted, but the AI categorizes where you drop off. So let's say if we ask you a question about a guardianship of a child, and that's where you stop answering, or that's when things take a long time to answer answer, the AI is going to detect that and tell us that this person stopped around the guardianship question, or
Mm,
this person stopped around the healthcare directive, organ donorship question,
yeah.
right? And so we try to figure out where you stop and maybe send you a notification to kind of bring you back to the topic. And so we're thinking about like what kind of stories can we tell to you specifically based on that profile. And these are the things that as we get more users, we get to learn more. And sometimes we've actually had a user come in and diagnose and really walk through her entire conversation with us. She's like, oh, I want to say something about childcare, and she wanted something really specific. For some reason, we didn't get it right for her. And so she's like, yeah, she screen shares everything. So we're like walking through all these things. So we're learning about people's behavior when it comes to this topic.
Yeah.
And we try to categorize people into why we put it off. And because it is so subjective, and it is also a little bit seasonal, right? Like when you come to winter time where it's holiday season, people are starting to think about family a little bit more. It's a little bit different when it comes to summertime. Parents who are very adventurous are going to go, let's say, hike Mount Everest or something like that, trek Mount Everest. And we try to remember that people with this profile of being adventurous, they may want to set up some things before they leave for the trek.
Right,
Right. So
right.
we try to like remember that. And so these are the things that are really fun. Through conversations, we learn about folks. And yeah, it's very inspiring actually. I've talked to a lot of very thoughtful people about what they want. And yeah, I just feel very inspired. And I just know that whatever I'm doing now at some point, it's just going to help a lot of families. It's going to
Yeah.
help a lot of people hold on to relationships that probably would have been difficult when
Yeah.
it comes to death. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as we're saying goodbye, I want to say that, I've really enjoyed this conversation, all of it. We've been kind of all over the place, and I love that. This is exactly what I want this show to be. But I love that your mom, you have such a lovely memory with her on building something that is going to help so many other people. And that there's a lovely memory with her attached to the success that this is going to be. I just think that is so cool. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. You made the task of what I need to do not seem so scary. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm going to send you a video that I just published.
Okay.
It was the time where I went back to Oklahoma with my mom. So my parents came to the US through Oklahoma, and we went back to the first place she ever had a first meal in the United States. And I'm going to send that video to you because, through these conversations, I realized she really wanted to go back to Oklahoma to see how things have changed in 40 years. And so we went back, I filmed the whole thing. The video's out now, and I'll send it to you. I'm
Yeah, I
really
would love
curious how
that.
you see. Yeah.
Yes, I would absolutely love that. Well, I'm going to share all the links. If anything else, I always tell people that this is not we hit end and the relationship's over. Like if there's anything that, new or progression that comes that you would like to share with my listeners, I will always share it on my social media. So feel free to send anything and everything. And I can't wait to see that video. Thank you so much for being here. And do you want to tell us the best place to find you and follow for any updates, or is it the website?
Airlight is at HEIRLIGHT.com. I am a one of one, Jermaine Ee. My last name is just two E's.
Yeah.
So when you search the internet, it is me. I don't think there's anyone else with this combo.
Perfect. Yeah. And like I said, I'm going to share everything. So, man, thank you so, so much. I appreciate you sharing all this with us. And let's stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have a great night. And I will email you all and let you all know the release date and the promo videos and stuff that I put together. We are usually like 4 to 6 weeks scheduled in advance or recorded in advance. So, but I'll keep you posted with all that.
And you're in Tennessee?
Tennessee, yeah.
Very cool. Okay. I don't think we're live in Tennessee yet. We're live in 12 states right now
Oh,
because
wow.
every state that I go to, I have a really big legal bill because I need to make sure that the output, the will, is fully compliant with the state.
Oh, wow, you're right. Yeah. See, I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that. But yeah, I'm in Knoxville, which if you don't know where that's at, I'm like two to 3 hours away from like Nashville.
Yeah, I know where Knoxville is.
Okay.
My main lawyer's mom lives in Knoxville.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
live close to the campus, so I'm down in like the
yeah.
city.
University. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
very
that's very
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so
cool.
much, man.
Well, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. And I
Yeah.
appreciate everything. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Yeah, I'll be in my office too this weekend. So if you message me, I'll be around.
Perfect. Sounds great, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Good night, buddy.